Hello. I think we're still having microphone issues. Is there another microphone? But how do you follow this? I'm not quite sure. But as you know, there was a tragedy in our Freedom Initiative Now family, and our thoughts and our prayers are with John and Deborah Anthony and the entire Anthony family. And so I've asked their pastor, Pastor Randy Bland, to come up here this evening and to say a prayer for our veterans, but also to say a prayer for the Anthony family. So, Pastor, please come up and join us.
It's all John, somewhere.
There it is.
Love you, man. You too. I served our military, or in our military, in 1980 in the Marine Corps. Got two sons. Two of my sons were in the military. My oldest son did 2 tours in Afghanistan, didn't come home the same kid that went. My youngest son served at Oman in the Marine Corps. Very different kid today. And I can't imagine what it would be like for my sons to be in the military today. We have squandered the freedoms that God has given to us. We've squandered our wealth. We've squandered our blessings. And today, our young men and women are not safe because of the leadership in this country. And so I want to pray for them. I want to pray for John, you and your family. Can't even imagine. You know, I just want to come back here and give you a hug again tonight. Let's pray. God in heaven, I ask you in the name of Jesus Christ, you told us that when you shut up the heavens and there is no rain, that when you send the locusts to devour this land, that if we would humble ourselves and we would pray, we would seek your face and turn from our wicked ways, that you would heal our land. God, I ask you in the name of Jesus tonight, I'm praying, I'm begging you, God, to heal our land. I'm praying for our soldiers who are in harm's way today because we have failed them. We failed you. And God, I know that as you restore this nation, as you provide leadership, and some of those leaders are in this room tonight, God, I know you can raise up champions all around us, and I pray for those champions to rise up, to get on their feet, and to lead this nation like you've called them to. So I pray you protect our men and women who volunteer to serve this great nation that you've blessed us with. Provide them with leadership that will protect them and watch over them, that will lead them, and give them everything they need, God, to win and to keep our freedoms. God, I pray for John Anthony. I pray for Deborah. I pray for his children. What a tragedy, Lord, they had to wake up to. And God, I pray your mercy would fall upon them. I pray that you would cover them with your grace. Lord, allow your healing strength and power to wash over him. Thank you so much for the contributions, Lord, that he makes to this cause. Thank you for the sacrifice that his family makes, Lord, that he can be out on the front line serving you in so many ways. I know that you have called him to so many things, Lord, that is great. And you've called him to great things. I pray you watch over him and protect him even during these times. Every speaker, Lord, that opens their mouth tonight, Lord, I pray you give them courage, you give them power to proclaim all that you want to accomplish. Thank you so much for people like Nick Richmond and others, God, that are not willing to sit at home behind their desk and just watch this fight they've gotten into. Lord, raise up men and women around them that will not only come to events like this, but support them, be a part of what you're doing. Lord, I thank you for our veterans. I thank you for those that have fought for this country. And I pray tonight that we not only honor them, but we honor you. I pray for this in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And again, I'd like to thank Illinois Patriots and Freedom Initiative Now for putting tonight's event together. So let's give them both. And I would tell you, Veterans Day is a special day for me because although I did not serve in uniform, I did serve as a civilian in combat. From 2007 to 2010, I worked for Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, where I deployed as a civilian into combat into Baghdad 14 times between 07 and 10. And I can tell you, I am standing here today because of the brave men and women who wear the uniform, who protect us not just here at home, but abroad as well. So to our veterans, thank you again. I think J.B. Pritzker's team cut the mic, so I think we're all set now. But you know what? There's two things that scare J.B. Pritzker. One is a diet, and number two is this gathering of freedom-loving patriots. And so it is my honor to introduce really the brains behind this entire operation, the visionary who said enough is enough. And there is a silver lining during this pandemic, and it's all of you. It's all of us. This pandemic has brought freedom-loving Americans together, left, right, center. We've seen leadership, extraordinary leadership during extraordinary times. Moms and dads standing before school boards, everyday people standing up. And so out of many, one, e pluribus unum. And so it is an honor for me to stand here before you tonight together because we are one. And really the brains behind this operation, this vision, is our founder and chairman of Freedom Initiative Now, Nick Richmond, and the CEO of Matrix Home Solutions and the president of Grosso University, who has lived the American dream, is living the American dream, who was comfortable where he was at in business, but decided that during this pandemic, it's time to stand up and fight for the freedoms not only of his family, but your family. And so it is an incredible honor to introduce my friend and the founder of Freedom Initiative Now, Mr. Nick Richmond.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all the veterans, for your sacrifices. It's a fitting day to be together here on Veterans Day to not only reflect on the sacrifices that so many brave men and women made to preserve our freedom, but to be here together under these circumstances to fight together a different battle, a different type of war, but make no mistake, we are in a war. I'm Nick Richmond, president and co-founder of Matrix Home Solutions, also co-founder of Grosso University and chairman of Freedom Initiative. My most important and cherished title, however, is husband to my beautiful wife, Nikki, and father to our 3 children, Grant, Anthony, and Gianna. By show of hands, how many parents do we have with us today? All right, I had a feeling I was with my people. What a why factor, right? You have to have a why in life in order to accomplish things. And if you have a strong enough why, you're capable of accomplishing anything. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. And I know this because all I've ever known, being a poor kid from Flint, Michigan, is hard work, grind, and what it takes to pursue the American dream. You know, the American dream is very important. And in fact, that's exactly what's under assault right now. If you see my shoes here, I had some custom-made American Dream shoes. I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan. Anyone here ever been to Flint, Michigan? Yes. Anyone here ever drive by Flint, Michigan as fast as humanly possible? Anyone ever drink the water in Flint, Michigan? You know, Flint was a town that taught you how to fight. You know, if you couldn't fight, it was a rough place to grow up. And it taught you grit and the value of hard work. And I came to Chicago, Illinois to pursue my dreams. My mom, thank you, Mom, if you're listening, for telling me as a young man that there's this great thing called the American dream, and if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. There's greatness outside of the boundaries of Flint, Michigan, and you're capable of doing anything. How many of you tell your children that they're capable of achieving anything? I suggest you tell them that 5 times a day, as many times a day as humanly possible. We have to instill the belief in our children. Our children are the future of this nation, and my children are what motivated me to start this great movement. This is now our 6th, actually 7th event now in the last 12 weeks. Can you imagine? We've been doing this for only 12 weeks. And yet, look at the momentum. So once again, I want to thank you all for being here. This really isn't about me. It's definitely not about Freedom Initiative. It's about all of you. It's about the future of this country as far as I'm concerned. The home improvement industry is the only industry I've ever known. I wasn't really political, especially throughout my 20s. I had my blinders on, focused on building my businesses, marrying my wife, raising our children. And then when I looked around and I realized, wow, I have a lot to lose. I might want to start paying attention to what's happening. I didn't like what I saw. So I began to dig a little deeper, and over a year ago, I began sponsoring AM 560 radio. We have any AM 560 radio listeners here? All right. Salem Broadcasting, my friends John Anthony, Mark Vargas. I began to build a really close relationship with them, and they began to educate me on the political side of this, welcoming me on their shows. In fact, I ran John Anthony's show one day. My knees were knocking, hosting a live radio show for the first time. Thank you, John, for the confidence. But I've learned a lot from these gentlemen, and it's been a blessing to have them in my life. It's really important right now in this moment who you surround yourself with, fair enough? We have to be aware of who it is we're surrounding ourselves with. That's a very important thing, and I'm so blessed to have them around me. I was at an event several events last week. I feel like it's every night of the week we could be at an event like this, which is beautiful. But this was actually for the home improvement industry, the Top 500 Live in New Orleans, which is the top 500 home remodeling companies gather for a seminar. And a few things caught me off guard. I was really excited to go to New Orleans, especially to Acme Oyster House. I love seafood, and I was excited to get some oysters, and I thought, well, here I am in NOLA, I'm going to have some fun. And I go to Acme Oyster House to get some oysters and maybe a beer to wash it down with, and they say, where's your Vax passport or your negative COVID test? Now, that was the first time I have been met with that little bit of resistance, like many of you may be facing in your occupation right now. And it was very, very uncomfortable. It's one thing to fight for this and appreciate what it could be like, and it's a whole other thing to be faced with it in that moment, having to show identification of vaccination status to enter Acme Oyster House. And mind you, this is as I'm stepping over homeless people and drug addicts and running past hookers on the street in New Orleans. And they have the audacity to demand a vaccine passport at the door. That is irony at its finest, isn't it? That's the byproduct of a toxic system in that town. And so with that said, I'm seeing a lot of signs around me that change needs to happen now, and there's an evil out there, isn't there? So Jocko was there. Anybody like Jocko? On Veterans Day, Jocko should be another one you take a moment to listen to. Another great veteran. He was the keynote. I had the pleasure of speaking right after him. So I thought, am I on candid camera here? And people asked me, what was your favorite part of your trip to New Orleans? Was it meeting Jocko? And I said, well, yeah, that was great, but really the greatest part of my trip to New Orleans was touring the World War II Veterans Museum. Anyone ever been to that museum in New Orleans? I'm telling you right now, every American citizen should be required to walk through the World War II Veterans Museum. It is unbelievable, this beautiful gem in this nasty, demonic place, New Orleans. And believe it or not, at this event, now mind you, this is a national event. I've been doing this for 12 weeks. This is the power in what we are all capable of. I'm in New Orleans for an industry event, not a Freedom Summit, and I had more people coming up to me to talk about what I'm doing through Freedom Initiative than what I'm doing at Matrix Home Solutions. And I thought, wow, these are people from all over the country. They're recognizing what it is I'm doing. They're following. And one of my colleagues dragged me out of bed and said, you're coming with me to this museum. And I said, I'm not a big museum guy, but I'll give it a shot. Now, they sit you down if you buy the extra super pass, and you get this ticket to watch this video, this movie they play for you in this theater. And it's one of those theaters where it puts you in the moment. Anyone ever been in one of those theaters where your chair's shaking and there's smoke and it feels like you're in the midst of war? And they start explaining World War II. And World War II from the outset, the Axis powers, these tyrannical powers that were looking to take over the globe and achieve domination. I thought, wow, that sounds awfully familiar. And they went on to talk about how the United States wanted to stay out of it initially, right? We were remaining passive. And then Pearl Harbor was attacked. And these brave men jumped into battle without hesitation. Even 16, 17-year-olds that weren't even able to enlist legally were trying to run away from home so they could go and fight for our freedom. Now contrast that against what it is that we're seeing right now. I believe we as Americans have taken for granted the sacrifices that those brave men and women made before us, sacrificed their lives to protect our freedom. Because here in America, we're very comfortable, aren't we? So it's easy just to go on about your day and pretend like there's no way another tyrannical individual or group could try to take over this nation. But in fact, that's exactly what's happening. And they know they can't breach the walls of this nation through traditional warfare, and so instead what's happening? They're trying to divide us and conquer us from within. And this is something that we all need to become aware of. Thank you. And that's why we do weave a component into our events, which is God. Because our founders understood the importance of that, didn't they? And it crafted what they put together. It created the greatest nation to ever grace the globe. Who are these anti-Americans comparing this nation to? I'm just curious. One of the first things that jumps off the page, if you study the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, is that our freedoms were a gift from who? God. Right. And are those gifts, the right to pursue our life, liberty, and happiness, those are unalienable. What does it mean that those rights are unalienable? How about you youngsters in the front row? What does it mean to be unalienable? There's going to be a quiz at the end of this. They're not to be given up or forfeited or taken away under any circumstances. This is basic stuff, but it's very, very powerful. And so it's important we keep that in mind. This is not just a war of tyrannical, global, monopoly power trying to take over everyone. It's also a spiritual war. And there's a war going on, I believe, in the most important place, and that's the 6 inches between everyone's ears. You need to fight every day to maintain your own peace of mind and control over your thoughts, because that's what this is. It's a battle of mind control. And that's why I found it important through Freedom Initiative to bring people together on a regular basis. I was cut from the cloth of face-to-face interaction. Old school communication. One of my mentors growing up was an old school Italian guy, and he used to draw a little diagram on a piece of paper, and it was like, he would draw, I don't know if you can see this, but this is going to be sloppy. You draw these two little half circles, and you put a dot on each side, and say, Nick, you know what this is, yeah, Nicky? I said, no, what is it? He goes, this is belly to belly. Belly to belly. In my industry, my business, home improvement, is a belly-to-belly business. It was founded on interaction, face-to-face, knocking doors, canvassing neighborhoods, shows and events, getting in front of people. And so now I'm just taking all that I've learned through my business experience, and I'm implanting it into now this new endeavor, which is waking people up first and foremost, right? Creating awareness, which we're doing a pretty good job of. What's so critical is that you begin to create the awareness as well. And so I want to kind of jump into some tactical things real quick, because some of you have heard me enough go through my spiel, and I think everyone's already pretty motivated. Who's motivated? All right. And it's important to be motivated. You got to motivate yourself every single day of the week, don't you? And sometimes no one's there to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. But we're going to win by strength and numbers. I believe we can win. I do. I believe we can win back this state, and I believe it's our obligation to go out and fight. You can lose a fight, but you can never win a surrender. And so we have to be prepared, and we have to work together, and we have to be strategic as to how we go about this. So let me just kind of talk a little bit about the plans we have at Freedom Initiative, and I welcome you to participate. And it's not that complicated. In fact, if you overcomplicate things, guess what happens? Nothing. If you overcomplicate things and you overthink everything, procrastination kicks in, and you're not going to make a difference. Sometimes you have to just jump right into it. So I'm going to give you some simple and easy to follow plans. First and foremost, we're looking for ambassadors. We need like 1,000 of me doing what I'm doing all throughout the Chicagoland area in the state of Illinois. So by show of hands, without me explaining the details, who here would be interested in being an ambassador for Freedom Initiative? Or with Freedom Initiative, quite candidly. And that's kind of what we're doing here with Illinois Patriots. We're also linking up with other grassroots groups. It doesn't have to be limited to Freedom Initiative. This isn't about me, a brand, making money. Believe me, if it were about money, I would have quit a long time ago. I pretty much self-funded everything to this point with the help of my business partners. It's about the overarching cause, and what it is that we're all trying to accomplish is freedom-loving Americans. And so we're looking for ambassadors, and what I envision, we're going to have a call tomorrow at 11 o'clock. You're welcome to join, 11 a.m. Zoom meeting. We already have 25 people on that call, capable, smart, intelligent, motivated people like all of you in this room that want to be an ambassador in their local area. And how that's going to work out is this. This is a big territory. I'm from Michigan, so when I came to Chicagoland, it was like a culture shock, right? There's a lot of ground to cover here, a lot of density in the Chicagoland area, a lot of bureaucracy, bloated government. We need an ambassador probably in every town, every village. And if it's a big town or village, maybe we need several. And the concept is you organize and host and manage your own events. I think the cadence should be every other week, every other week. If you don't get in front of people every other week and do this, you lose that ether. People leave, they're excited, yeah, we're going to take back Illinois. And then life starts to happen again, right? Somebody tries to dox them or silence them or make them feel stupid because they're fighting for freedom, which is ridiculous. But yet that gets people down. You got to keep that going. So we have ambassadors that are going to be hosting their own events in their local area. We're going to back you up. We're an entity, so you need insurance. There's cost involved. There's revenue involved. We have an organization and an infrastructure that can support you so that you can focus on what needs to happen in those local areas, which is bringing people together. Beyond that, you're going to manage and build your own social pages. And they're kind of echo chambers, quite candidly, but still there's a limit to what that's worth. But I do invite you to build your own Freedom Initiative, Naperville, Orland Park, etc. And there's more to the initiatives. But eventually we have to go out and we have to hit doors. We have to. We have to go out and get belly to belly with people. We have to find these apathetic voters and get them interested. We have to educate people. I'll tell you a quick story, and I know my time is almost up. I was walking my dog the other day in my neighborhood. I live in Scarsdale in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Rather affluent community. Really smart people. I'm out walking my dog. I have a little pug, like the Men in Black dog, and I'm out there with the pug. And my neighbor across the street, Tom, comes out. He's a great guy. He's a patriot, and I love talking to him. And he says, "Man, I love your Let's Go Brandon sign." I said, "You want to buy one? I got about 500 of them to sell." And I had Darren Bailey's sign sitting there next to it. And I said, "Well, what do you think about my Darren Bailey sign?" And he said, "Who?" And this was after he told me for about 5 minutes about how badly he wants to strangle J.B. Pritzker if he could find a way to get his hands around his fat neck. And so I said, okay, do you know Gary Rabine or Jesse Sullivan? I started rattling, and he says, no. When is the election, he asked me. When is the election? And it dawned on me. I called Jack Lombardi, my good friend Jack, I think, like right away, and I said, Jack. And Dave Shostokis, which they're doing a really cool thing through their educational program. We need to educate people. So first and foremost, we got to create the awareness, right? We have to build up strength in numbers, exercise some basic defiance along the way, which I can talk about for 5 hours. Take the mask off in the store. Don't be afraid. It'll be like a chain reaction. You'll see other people doing the same thing. We have to reverse the spell that everyone's been put under. All right? You have to educate your kids that this is not okay. Now, I can't tell you how to raise your kids, but it's not okay. Teach them that. In every way you can be defined, but we have to change out the elected officials. We have to swap them out. And if there's uncontested seats, we have to find people and bring them forward that want to run. We have to find leaders. And it's our obligation. Everyone's pissed off about what's happening, pardon my French. But they've been asleep behind the wheel, so guess what? We got what we deserve. If you can't tell me who your House rep is or your local legislator, I don't want to hear it. And it's boring. It is. The more I get into it, it's so boring. It's so boring. And I see why people don't pay attention to it, but guess what? Our lives are at stake. Our children's lives are at stake. So there's more to the Freedom Initiative than just having fun. And last but not least, do we have any weightlifters in the room? Anybody work out today? I see a few of you. Come on, Mike. We're going to go tip over the COVID testing booth out there. I'm kidding, Courtney. My attorney's here. Courtney, I'm joking. No, look, the chain is only the strongest, weakest link. And if we take over every village, every town in America through Freedom Initiative, we got all these fired up people, we wake up the apathetic voters, and they know who they're going to vote for and when the election is. Great! But what if election integrity doesn't exist? Wow, that was a lot of work. I could have been down in Florida fishing instead of doing all this, but I'm having fun. We got to have election integrity. So the Coalition for Free and Fair Elections, George Pearson, and the Illinois Black Republican Coalition. So you have two leaders in the room. Let's give them a round of applause. We have two leaders in the room that are leading the charge, and there's many more on election integrity. It takes literally tens of thousands of poll watchers to watch over on a statewide level the integrity of this election. Now, it doesn't just have to be the big brute weightlifters in the room. I was joking about that. But strong men and women need to volunteer. Volunteer, get involved. We have an event on the 20th, a training session. We need you. We need everyone in this room. You all need to be the chairman of your own Freedom Initiative every single day of the week. By show of hands, who can do that? Not just for us or your children, but probably for the most important person in the world. That's who? You. Okay, that's what this country is all about. You have to fight for your freedom. It isn't a handout. Okay, it's not how it works. It's time to fight. So with that said, guys and gals, thank you all for being here. It's an honor to have you here. It's an honor to have you here on Veterans Day. Thank you again to all the veterans. Let's make it a great night.
Thank you, Nick. And Nick makes an excellent point because there are 40 seats in Springfield that Democrats run uncontested. And that's just an example of the kind of work that we have to do. We can turn Illinois red, but there's a lot of work to do. But as I mentioned earlier, the silver lining during this pandemic was people standing up and fighting back. And all of the freedom-loving patriots that I've been able to meet over the last couple of years has been life-changing. And this event wouldn't have been possible without Christina and Illinois Patriots. Her work and her partnership should be applauded. Christina, thank you. And it is my honor to introduce to you Christina from Illinois Patriots.
Hello, my name's Christina from Illinois Patriots. Hello. Most of you know me from social media. Illinois Patriots is how it all started. Since then, Jack Lombardi has suckered me into about 20 other groups to admin. I'm going to tell you what lit my fire. I am a mother of 3 beautiful sons, and anyone that knows me knows I'm not a rule follower and don't like to be told what to do. So having tyrants telling me what to wear on my face or put in my body fueled another fire. The other thing people know about me is I am a mama bear. You don't mess with my kids. 3 years ago, I went to school for an early morning meeting for my son, and the Pledge of Allegiance came on. We stood, said the pledge. After that, we were told to keep standing. There's a second pledge. The end of the pledge was as follows: become positive global citizens. I was told the pledge was to teach my kids morals and ethics. It's my job to teach my kids morals and ethics. Not woke teachers. It's the school's job to teach my kids math, English, science, social studies. My kids were required daily to recite a pledge to be global citizens. That's when I realized indoctrination was in my kids' school. I wanted to pull them out, but I didn't. They didn't want to get pulled out. Once COVID hit, I gave them no choice. I pulled them out, and I homeschooled. It's not easy, but I encourage you all, pull your kids out of school. This year, my kids wanted to go back to school, so it's my job to fight like hell for them, so I did. I went to school board meetings and noticed only a few parents showing up. Went to other district school board meetings, noticed the same thing. That's when I realized I needed to wake people up, educate, empower, and organize. I created Illinois Patriots, held an event, had a beautiful showing. We had over 500 people. It was absolutely amazing. Darren Bailey was there. It was amazing. A lot of great. Jack was there. Jack Lombardi, Tom McCullum. We had a great showing. We gave the parents tools to speak up and have the confidence to go in front of these school boards, and it worked. The energy was like something I've never seen, and we made headway. With the help of some influential people in the area, Steve Balich, Frankie Pretzel, Jack Lombardi, Tom McCullough, we rallied the troops. Schools went mask optional after that. After that, Pritzker was not happy, so he mandated masks be worn in schools or you would lose your accreditation, which is not true, by the way. Follow Thomas DeVore, he will tell you all about it. Parents lost hope. I lost hope. The last school board meeting, I was overcome with emotion. I couldn't choke back the tears. I broke down. I talked about our children's mental health and how the masks and social distancing were hurting them. They didn't seem to care. That's when I realized I needed to shift gears. It's our job to protect our kids and make sure we leave them a free and prosperous country. I refuse to leave my kids a country that won't give them the same opportunities I was given. So I thought about why we were in the situation we were in. My conclusion was because of our civil servants, the people that work for us. They were all acting like tyrants. The only way out of this mess was to get rid of all of them. How do we do that, you ask? And I do think it can be done. I do. It's going to take every single patriot to stand up and do something. We all have to do something. We cannot sit idle. It is no longer about left or right, Republican or Democrat, black or white, gay or straight. It is now patriots versus communists. They want us divided. And the moment everyone realizes that is the moment we take back our lives. In my opinion, the key to all of this is election judges. Everyone complains about our rigged elections. How many people in this room are election judges? It's not a lot. It's not a lot. We won Virginia because 97% patriots stood up, parents stood up, they campaigned for their candidate, and they signed up to be election judges, and you noticed that that election, you got your results that night. Jersey, not so much. Jersey had 30% Republican participation. That didn't turn out. I went to bed and our guy was winning. I woke up and Murphy won it. So that's how they did it. This is as simple as going to your county board of elections. Takes 2 minutes to sign up. We actually have people here today that will sign you up to be an election judge. You could do it online. Talk to your committeeman. Takes just about 30 seconds to sign up. 2 hours for the training, and then 2 days, 2 hours. 6 hours out of a year. We spend more time on social media, guys. You can do this. It's in 2022. We could take it back. I do believe that we can turn the state red. I do think it's possible. So when you leave here today, don't pat yourself on the back because you came to an event. When you leave here today, decide how you're going to get involved. I have a business, a family. I find time every day to do something, whether it's going to an event, whether it's dropping off signs for candidates, talking to attorneys about the mandates, fighting tyrannical bills. You notice I'm all over social media telling you guys what to do all the time. It helps, it really does. We got 50,000 witness slips signed for the last bill, SB 1169. I realize it didn't matter. They did what they wanted to do anyway, but we did it. That's because of all of you. You guys, that's action. That's doing something. So there's no excuse to not get involved in some way. We all have families. We all have businesses or jobs. We all have something we'd rather be doing, but I want my life back. I just want my life back. I want to be able to send my kids back to school. I want to be able to go on a plane and not worry about getting kicked off the plane because I will not comply, So now is not the time to be complacent, guys, and nobody, you can't rely on somebody else to come save you. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, and the only way to do that is to get involved in some way. There are tons of positions available. I have a sign-up sheet if you guys want. If you're thinking about running for something, do it. Do it. We will support you. I will get to know you. I have a big reach. Jack Lombardi's got me in 25 groups. We have probably over 1,000 members in all or 100,000 members in all our groups. We got a big reach. You got to fight for your kids. We can't leave our kids this type of country. This isn't right. Now is the time to show your kids that you didn't sit by and let this country fall to communism. Go to a school board meeting. Figure out who needs to go on that board. Consider running yourself. I also have a sign-up sheet if you're considering running for your school board. Every single one of them needs to go. I've been to a lot of school board meetings. I've been to my own school board meeting. I've been talking to my school board members, and I'm like, if you don't want to do what's right, give up your seat. I will take your place, and I will do what's right. I'm not running for school board. Go to your local GOP meetings. You'll meet so many like-minded, amazing people. I know people don't want to align with a party because of their jobs, because of their careers. They're afraid to get canceled. I'm in a position where I could get canceled, but I can't stay silent any longer. I care about my kids more than I care about money. So I do what I do. Volunteer for candidates. They need the help. They desperately need the help. Knock on doors for them. Become a candidate. Most importantly, get out and vote. With that, I want to thank you all for being here, being a part of my life, because this last year and a half has been very difficult for all of us, and Illinois Patriots and all my pages have really helped me get through all this. You guys have no idea the support, how much it means to me, and you guys are all amazing, and I can't thank you enough for all being here, so thank you.
The future is definitely brighter because of patriots like Christina. And there is hope in a state like Illinois. And if you want to make a difference, to her point, get involved. And you don't have to do it at a grand scale. You can do it within your community or on your school board or even at home, because one person can make a difference. And we see that as living proof. Gio, where's Gio? There he is. So our next speaker. Gio is born in the western suburbs of Chicago. You're the son of an immigrant, or son of a veteran, correct? He's the son of a veteran and a first-generation firefighter. He's got a very powerful story. Please welcome Gio Richter.
Hello and good evening. My name is George Richter. Most call me Gio. It's an honor to have the invitation to speak and share my story with all of you tonight. As a quick introduction, I'm 31 years old, born and raised in north central Illinois, in both the suburban and rural areas. I'm a brother-in-law to an Army veteran and a proud son to a Navy veteran father. I was born into a family with 30 plus years in the rehabilitation of birds of prey and conservation. I make mention of this because it has instilled a fundamental value for life at an early age. Today, I am a first-generation Illinois firefighter paramedic, humbly serving for nearly 5 years at various 911 departments. I began my career as a 100% volunteer with a promise of working my way to a highly competitive career position. I firmly believe this is to be my calling until the day I die. This job has taught me to appreciate the beauty of life and empathize with the tragedy in death. Most importantly, it has taught me that I can make a difference in someone's life. So what happened and why am I here? On October 14th of this year, I was effectively terminated from my post as a devoted firefighter paramedic at Bristol Kendall Fire in Yorkville, Illinois. Not for tardiness, not for absenteeism, not for negligence, or any sort of unprofessionalism. My entire employment record is exemplary with every department I have worked for. I was fired for disobeying an unjustified order to have my face penetrated weekly, with a Q-tip for no logical reason, or to have my shoulder penetrated with a needle containing experimental pharmaceuticals that I am personally just not comfortable with. I pleaded several times for my conscientious reasoning to my chiefs and then to the Board of Trustees. I had the overwhelming encouragement and support from my firefighter brothers and sisters, both vaccinated and not. At my disciplinary hearing, there was an attempt to make my voice silent by my very own employers. I was told I could not speak publicly because I had missed my chance. If it wasn't for the organized motivation of ordinary freedom-loving citizens that were literally standing behind me, demanding my voice be heard, I would have been silenced. But nonetheless, in the end, my words fell on deaf ears. And for only 30 minutes behind closed doors, the boards and chiefs came out and made an example of me, claiming 3 counts of insubordination, 1 that I broke policy, 2, being non-compliant to an order to be swabbed, and 3, that I broke the law. Mandates are law. In turn of heartbreak, I called out the hypocrisy right before me and judged those back that judged me, calling out the breaking of their own rules and policy and mandates, as 9 out of 10 administrative members were unmasked, not distanced, inside, breaking the very rules I was accused of. I do not care for masks anyway, but I cannot stand the hypocrisy and be used to be made an example of. So why was I disobedient in the first place? Because the line has been crossed for me. As part of my prerequisite to learn, the science that a first-year community college biology class teaches you didn't let me down when I contracted COVID this year. I was sick and did what I thought was common practice and logic, which was to stay home away from people, rest, eat, drink plenty of fluids, disinfect, and let the perfect design of my natural immune system beat the mutating pathogen. Which was exactly what happened. Then afterwards, I returned to work with my God-given antibodies that have been proven more effective than all of these other alternatives. It is part in the agreement in my employment to be fit for duty that I exercise, eat healthy, get proper rest, and drink plenty of water. I must take care of my body and mind the best I can because the public relies on a well-rested, sound-minded firefighter paramedic to make critical decisions in critical times. I am not anti-science, but it is asinine to passively trust science when the whole point of science is to distrust it until it is proven irrefutable. I am not anti-mask. You have the freedom to do so, but I would really like to see your smile. I am not anti-vaccine. Informed consent with one's own trusted personal care provider is a right of medical freedom. I am not anti-testing. Medical devices and asymptomatic testing without consent is battery and discriminating from those deemed exempt with vaccination, regardless of equal transmission rates. I will not be alienated and treated as a plague pandemic of the unvaccinated. For there is no evidence that any member of the public fell ill by contact of first responders. Our heightened protocols for disease prevention remain unchanged, whether there is a pandemic or not. Nothing has actually changed, but yet everything seems to have changed. I am disobedient because I took an oath to the state and national constitutions. That oath is much like the oath of great military servicemen and women take. The oath that demands we are men and women of integrity and virtue, no matter what challenges we face. Within the text of that oath, I am obligated to promote the general welfare and safety of the public, not force it on anybody. I have the moral obligation as any American to preserve the liberties endowed to myself, my coworkers, and countrymen. I am disobedient because I know an unchallenged, perpetual state of emergency will not end unless I move toward an attempt to make it end. Whatever those steps may be, but I'm only one person. In perspective of this nation, I wholeheartedly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that we are being assaulted and in a different form of war. Financially, medically, mentally, physically, and spiritually. The American spirit has fallen victim by an extreme attrition, a warfare on all fronts in our pursuits of happiness. Greed, hypocrisy, paranoia, and fear collectively is the true pandemic of our time and is relied heavily on by the aristocratic men and women who have a self-invested interest in beating and keeping this dead horse of a pandemic alive. We are falling victim to the tactics of divide and conquer on race, gender, class, creed, and all other forms of identity. Our communities and families are willfully segregated and have us literally barricaded against each other. Free speech is squelched and removed. Critical thought and access to information is censored. Once trusted media sources now run exaggerated distractions as decoy, wasting our precious time arguing over topics of complete insignificance. And now our jobs, our bodies, our children's bodies, and their education are being subjected to government and corporate extortion. But as each day goes by, more and more police, military, fire, EMS, nurses, doctors, tradesmen, and students are speaking out, taking a stand, sacrificing comfort in the name of freedom. They too have finally become disobedient or simply obedient to their higher power. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, quote, "The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people," end quote. Silence is complacency, silence is consent, and now silence is deafening. I wish to echo those words MLK Jr. said and say to all good people to stand up and let your voices be heard. Get louder in the faces of those that should represent you. Vet those that seek to represent you. Now is the time to unify and volley fear back onto the oppressors. Expose their hypocrisy and corruption and hold them accountable for their actions. And to fight against those that dare tread on others. Organize, wield class action lawsuits, FOIA their information, protest, flood their servers with emails and phone calls, jam their mailboxes with letters, and demand the return of your dignity. Use every means at your disposal because they are. We have been living a life with trepidation, angst, and fear for far too long. We mourn for our nation. The amount of fear I have had to alleviate in my patients and to those I love dearly as a paramedic has been astounding. Many, though, are still stuck in the conundrum, feeling there is no choice or reason. That does not sit with me. There is always a choice in life and a reason why you are here tonight. With all the evils and woes of the world right now, I also feel it's important to discuss this. 21 a day. Veterans know exactly what this means. 21 veterans a day are turning their despair inward. 21 a day that saw no peace after they left the battlefields. You are not alone. You are never alone. Tonight, I look into your eyes and say, do not despair. Do not give up. For knowledge, hope, and action is more powerful than any evil fear. This country needs you now more than ever. The citizens need you now more than ever. The citizens also need you now more than ever, whether they know it or not. But most importantly, we need each other now more than ever. You are good people. I can see the goodness in your hearts and the love you have for humanity. The sacrifices you have made for the betterment and welfare for your neighbors and your country. You are the selfless guardians that have held this country up with valorous strength. You have sacrificed more than enough in your lives and for the country you love. You have earned your right to peace, but you have not earned your right to rest in it yet. I assure you, all darkness is destroyed with light, hope, and courage. Courage is contagious. It can spread rapidly, overnight, to all continents of the globe and to all those suffering and in need of help. In conclusion, freedom is defined as, quote, the quality or state of being free, such as the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in choice or action, liberation from slavery or from another power, boldness of conception or execution of political right, end quote. By that definition, on October 14th, I chose freedom and was exiled out of the fire service for now. Ironically, I have never felt more free standing up for what I believe to be so strong against tyranny. I'm doing just fine, for behind every firefighter is 1, 2, and sometimes 3 other part-time jobs. I'm an ordinary, independent citizen trying to live his life in peace, while pursuing his own happiness, like the lot of us. I am not here running for office. I'm not here for pity either. I have no interest in any of that. I am here tonight to make an oath to you that I will do everything within my power to preserve the liberty you veterans fought and sacrificed for, and to offer a helping hand. When tonight's event is over and when we retreat to our comfortable lifestyles and beds, I'd ask all of us to remember that there's a lot we take for granted in our lives. Reflect on them, be gracious, cherish life and liberty, and fight to preserve and keep them. But most importantly, above all else, stay together and preserve and keep each other. Thank you to the Illinois Stamp Act PAC for the Connection to Freedom Initiative Now. Thank you for inviting me to speak tonight, and thank you for all of your service and what you do. Veterans, we love you. God bless you and this great nation. Good night, be safe, and help one another.
Our next guest is the senior pastor of Gilliam Romanian Pentecostal Church in Chicago, born in Romania and living under the communist era. You know where this is going. He fled his country with his wife to start a new life as immigrants here in the United States. And listen to this, his church in Chicago is one of the 6 Romanian American churches that were defying Governor Pritzker's stay-at-home order that limited in-worship services to just 10 people. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pastor Cristian Ionescu.
May God bless each and every one of you. I knew you were waiting for English with an accent for a while. Thank you, Freedom Initiative. Thank you, Nick Richmond. May God bless you. This was long overdue. And all the team, all the speakers. I'm representing Gilliam Church. There's a few of us here attending this meeting. From the members of our church, from Credo TV, our TV ministry, right there. They're going to create a very nice presentation of this event. And my wife, Doina, we have 10 daughters. Ours. 9 grandchildren and 3 on the way. Close to 30 of us conservatives in this country. And I'm very pleased to announce that we're going to have a Freedom Initiative event at Gilliam Church on the 28th of January. Our church board approved it immediately, unanimously, and we're eager to host that event at our church. Last year, the beginning of May, we were accused of disorderly conduct for holding the most orderly services in America. We were fined and threatened with arrest and summary abatement, which in its worst form of application would be the demolition of our facilities. Civil disobedience is in order in the face of tyrannical government. And I would like to talk to you for a few minutes about communism or socialism made simple, so you would understand it in its application in this country. Because as I'm going to describe some things to you, you're going to remember seeing them in the last few years, and especially in the last 2 years. Its ultimate goal is total control. How do they propose to achieve it? Pretend that they give while they take. Pretend that they give freely while they demand something in return. How about buying votes? Pretend that your giving will solve people's problems, that's what they do, while creating dependency that the people will never escape. They're going to try to, supposedly, solve people's problems. Welfare never helped people out of poverty. It ensured they never escaped it. So first they take away property, make it common property. It's appealing to most. I mean, if you see a mansion off the street and you think it can be yours, but if it's everybody's, it is nobody's property. Promising equality on lifting everybody up while delivering equality by bringing everybody down. They destroy the entrepreneurial spirit of America, its creativity and its innovation. They take away your money through taxes. There's no fairness in forcibly redistributing wealth. We need to believe in America and its people, the most charitable nation on the face of the earth. They will willingly give. You don't need to forcibly take anything away from an American. They want to take away your guns. I don't own a gun, but that's my personal choice, as it should be yours to own quite a few. And I hope you're going to protect me too. They preach common safety, but they want to make it easy for themselves. A very small minority of gun owners will ever shoot their guns outside practice and or hunting in their lifetimes. They want to take away individual rights for the common good. You remember Benjamin Franklin's words, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Not only they want to take away, but they want to take over. Take over the education of your children. Take over the school curriculums. Take over the local governments. Election fraud is not beneath them. You saw that, and you know it. They want to take over media, entertainment, culture. What am I saying? They already did. And now they want to take over the army, the police, and hijack them and misuse them and turn them against the people they should protect. They brought our citations for disorderly conduct. Very embarrassed policemen came to our church. I said, hey, you seem like nice people. If they want to arrest me, would you please come and do it? Because I know you, it might be easier for me. And they said, Pastor, no police officer in this city will come closer than 6 feet to you. We are going to practice safe distancing. Not only they take away, not only they take over, but they want to take down parallel forms of authority, take down the family, take down private schools, take down small businesses, and yes, take down churches. They want to take down borders, pretend to give us security and safety while compromising them. They'll rewrite history, they'll intimidate, they'll get you fired, like the wonderful gentleman. They'll even hurt you physically, and ultimately, they'll even annihilate the opposition. Welcome to communism. It happened in my country. We thought it will never work in Romania. We were as capitalistic as anybody in the world before Second World War. The Bolsheviks came, took over the country through conquering, because they can either use conquest, and America is very hard to conquer. Would you agree with me? So what they do, they use conversion. For the last 60, 70 years, they've converted our population, the young generation, to socialist ideas and communist ideas. That's what they did. So we need to take their power away from them. We need to take down their arguments. Inform yourselves, attend local public meetings, and take the podiums. Recruit and support local conservatives for local positions of authority, because they want to take away your America. And now it's my America too. I've been here for the last 34 years. I'm a citizen. I love this country. It welcomed us with open arms. They want to take your America over. They want to take America down. So take back America. Don't let them transform the American dream into a nightmare. Bring back God. Bring revival to this country. First, to your heart, to your family, to your churches. Bring back creation in schools, and bring back prayer in schools. Bring back fasting and prayer in your own lives. Bring back the biblical definition of family and morality. Bring back integrity into government. Open up all the churches in this country. And if some pastors are reluctant, fire them. They're committing treasonous acts, high treason against the kingdom of God. The church, we're not talking about the church surviving without physical gatherings. The church cannot even exist without physical gatherings. So may God restore and then bless America. Thank you. God bless you.
Pastor, thank you for those wonderful and powerful words. You know what communism looks like. You and your family fled communism, and now you recognize it here to the country where you fled to. I'm going to ask Christina from Illinois Patriots to come up to introduce our keynote speaker. So Christina.
Jonathan T. Gilliam. He's a career public servant with over 20 years of service as a Navy SEAL, FBI special agent, federal air marshal, private security contractor, police officer, public speaker, radio host, expert media commentator, and author of Sheep No More. He also has a podcast, The Truth Has Arrived. Jonathan's a true patriot and has dedicated his life to this country and continues to fight every day. I got to spend some time talking with Jonathan at the Vets on Horses event, and it was there that I fully realized what the goal for all of us should be: to stand together, stay in the fight until it's over. So without further ado, Jonathan T. Gilliam.
It is great to be here. I got to tell you, you all are in the thick of it, and as the pastor was just describing there, is he still here? Did he leave? He's right there. As the pastor, yeah, give him a hand, please. As you were just describing communism, I'm sitting back there thinking to myself, wow, actually, these people actually do kind of know what it's like now, because we're all, especially here, you're kind of living in it. You're living in the very beginnings of it, right? My good friend Drago, who was a Navy SEAL for 20 years, this green cord is killing me. This is the first time I've ever had a green cord when I'm speaking. So Drago was in Poland, which he considers it socialist Poland. But communism, socialism, I think once you get that deep into oppression, it's pretty similar. Okay, I always liken, if you look at, how many people here have ever been to a buffet, right? And by the way, I'm going completely off the script that I had. I never follow those things anyway, so close. I'm going to follow a little close. But, so we've been to a buffet before, okay? I want you to think about the buffet that you go to is capitalism, all right? Capitalism says that whatever you will buy, they will sell, right? Whatever you're hungry to eat, they're going to stock the buffet with that, right? So they're going to set the hours to where people come and eat, right? They're not going to set the hours for, unless they're Waffle House for 3 a.m., right? It's a buffet. Most people go there certain hours of the day. Now, I want you to think of socialism is where they tell you you're free to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, but they only are going to stock it with certain foods that they deem that you should have. They're only going to have it open for hours that they think that you should be there, and you're only going to be able to eat a portion that they decide for you. Okay, that's socialism. And by the way, they're going to tax the owner of that buffet so much that the owner is really only going to be able to survive by having that and making enough living to live off of. Now, communism is where the government owns that buffet. The government may or may not stock it with food. You will only be able to get food there if they stock it if you show up early enough to get in line. And if you complain about it, they take you back behind the line and you never come back. Would you agree that's similar to what communism is, right? Well, we are almost where socialism is. We're that close. I left New York and went to Arizona and spent a lot of time out there. Arizona is as free as I've ever experienced. I go ride down the freeway on Harley with a t-shirt on, my gun strapped up and flying out the side. Nobody cares. They just want me to get out of the way because I'm not going fast enough. Go to New York. Actually, another thing happened. I was in Arizona. I went to they had a conference on the Constitution. And it was at a school, and I show up because I have a concealed weapons carry permit, but you don't even need that in Arizona because it's constitutional carry. So I went up to the police officer who was there. I said, I used to be in the FBI. I'm carrying a weapon. I just want to go, it's in a school. The officer says, okay, where are you going to be just in case something happens, so I have backup. This just happened. If I'd been in New York, I would have been arrested right away. Probably hear the same thing, right? We are so close to that buffet where it's socialism that your rights have been degraded to the point where they don't really exist in a lot of ways. You cannot defend yourself. You have to be reliant upon police officers. Many of you are being told how you'll take care of your children. You're being told how you'll live your life. You're being told what your sexuality will be if you're 13, 14 years old. You're not being told you'll develop, give it some time. It's called puberty. No, you're being told this is who you are, this is the way you'll be. Now, you guys want to come up and speak? Who's back there? See, I told you I'd get him quiet. It's probably George. Now George's looking at his phone. George, eyes right here. I meant to bring George's jacket up because I was going to be George while I'm up here. But here's the thing. So I took some time and I wrote this thing called the Free Territorial Alliance. Because what I kept seeing is that as socialism takes hold, what's occurring is your rights, as I'm just describing, your rights start to be degraded, right? The only reason why anyone in power would degrade your rights is for their power. There's no reason, I want you to think about this, I want you to envision this. There's no reason why if I say you need this right, God granted you these rights, and they're inescapable. These rights belong to you. And we're going to write them on paper, and we're going to make those law. There's only one reason why somebody would take those rights away or degrade them. For their power, not for yours. Those rights were put on paper and into law for your power. So when I sat down, I started thinking, how did we get to the point where we're at 200, not now, over 240 years ago? Well, they declared their independence from a tyrant that was a king. And they declared their independence, and through that declaration, they established their authority from and separate from that tyrant. Now, when they did that, they wrote a thing called the Constitution. And that Constitution put into law those rights that God had granted. Are you following me? So what has happened over 240 years is that those rights have been degraded. They've been degraded and chopped away by tyrants, right? They were fighting one tyrant. They stood against one tyrant. Now, over 245 years, two groups, and I'm going to say it, the DNC and the RNC. That they own every seat of power in government. Even people who say, I'm an independent, or I was with the Tea Party. Well, where did they come from? The Tea Party is a perfect example. It was good people who said, we gotta get away from these two parties because they're a disaster. And who infiltrated and took over that? The Republicans, some Democrats who were moderate. Now, I know there's Republicans in this room. There's people who are running for office in this room on the GOP ticket. Here's what I will tell you. The Democrat machine is a war-fighting machine. It is a war-fighting machine full of tyrants who hate your freedom. They hate the Constitution. They want to degrade your rights so they can get to what the pastor was just talking about. Total control. Total power. Does anyone have a question that exists in here whatsoever? No. Say it. No. One thing we're going to do today is we're going to stop with this quiet behavior, okay? You all showed up here. You paid for a ticket, right? You showed up here. I'm not going to do a song and dance. I'm sorry. I gave that up in high school. We're here so you can learn, so you can be tasked. So that when you leave here today, this is not going to be a feel-good. You're not going to pat yourself on the back when you leave here today. You're going to be tasked. And you're going to start standing together. So that's the Democrat Party. Do we have any doubt that that's not the Democrat Party? No. Well, let me tell you what the GOP is. The GOP is a fundraising entity no different than any other nonprofit out there that gets money, and they own a line on the ticket. The GOP does not supply courses on the Constitution for the people. The GOP does not get buses to take 1 million people to the border so they can stand against the millions of people who are being bused from South America to the border by the Democrat Party. Does anybody here doubt that that's not occurring? No. Those people show up to the border going a distance that, as a SEAL, I operated in and out of Central South America. And I saw poverty like you can't even imagine it. I mean, I grew up in Arkansas. At one point, our family had an outhouse and pumped water. I lived pretty damn good compared to the people that live in South America. There's no way they're making it 2,000 miles in 2 weeks on any paycheck that they earn. And show up well-fed with Joe Biden shirt on. I think it's pretty clear to see who's providing it, right? So, the GOP does not provide a counter to that. The GOP does not go out and cultivate communities like the Democrat Party does. They cultivate socialism. They grow it in different communities. They systematically pick positions of political power in places like Texas, so they can go after attorney generals, they can go after sheriff's positions, they can go after chiefs of police, after city councils, after, say it with me, school boards, right? The Department of Education. You all know who created the Department of Education? Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is the one that pushed that forward. One of the biggest things I think that Donald Trump didn't do in office was get rid of the Department of Education. He's not perfect. He's not perfect. But this is what the GOP is. Now, for those of you that are running here, I know, George, I think the world of George, this is the challenge. Turn the GOP into a war-fighting machine. If you're running for office and you get that office, you should work to turn that GOP into a war-fighting machine. Because you may get an office, but nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to change in this nation. And you're not going to start a third party that's going to succeed. I'm telling you right now, these two parties are hundreds of years old. They're hundreds of years old. Do you know anybody who's 200 years old? How many people do you know that are 90? How smart are they? Right? They're extremely wise. These parties are 200 or more years old. You are not going to change that. You're not going to create a third party that's going to change that. So we need to mutiny the Republican Party. We need to take it, and we need to make it into a war-fighting machine. And anybody who stands in your way, they need to be gone. Now, how do we do that? How do you do that? Well, I was talking to Nick just a little while ago. A couple weeks ago in New York City, they had about 10,000 people show up to rally for police and for fire department because they're being mandated to take these vaccines. And you know what they did when it started to get dark? They went home. It wouldn't have mattered if they had 1 million people. They went home. They could have taken 10,000 people, divided those people into 4 groups, and stayed out there indefinitely until they got what they wanted. That's what the left does. But there's no guidance. There's no tasking. There's no GOP to lead them. The Democrats lead, whether you realize it or not, every major riot, protest, rally, or celebration on behalf of the left, they lead it. They coordinate it. They can do it within 2 hours. This is their words. This is their words. Anywhere in the country, in 2 hours, they can organize this. They can organize it, they can fund it, and they can staff it with people to on the ground organize it, and then get these useful idiots to show up and do what it takes to do that. Whether it be burning down a city like Kyle Rittenhouse had to face, or whether it is throwing a party in Philadelphia like they did after the election when Biden somehow won. That's what they do. That's what the GOP has to do. Now, I wrote this Free Territory Alliance because once I saw what the Declaration of Independence did, which was declare not only independence, but our authority, and then this Constitution that was written put that authority into law. Well, I wrote this Free Territory Alliance, and you can go to ftanation.com. And what it is a declaration of our independence from the left, from socialism, from communism, from ourselves. Because it says in there, and I took like a month to write this. I prayed before I wrote this. And it says in there, the one thing that you have to realize is that this is not new. What's happening now is not new. I want you to realize something. As the pastor was saying there earlier, Nick alluded to this earlier. In the Garden of Eden, who ate the apple? Somebody raise your hand and tell me. Who ate the apple? Adam and Eve, man and woman, right? They're human beings, correct? Who did not eat of that apple? Satan did not eat of that apple. It says in Genesis that if you eat of the apple of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will surely die. Well, Satan never ate of that apple. He convinced Adam and Eve to eat of that apple, and God said that they would forever be cast out of the Garden of Eden, and that Satan would continuously be nipping at their heels, and he would be continuously crushed by them. Well, let me tell you, folks, that's all true. But what's also occurred since that day until now is we've been learning good and evil. We've been learning technology. We've been learning how to listen and know almost everything that anyone is thinking because of, well, I got an iPad there, but because of this. Right? God is everywhere. Satan is not. But because of this technology, he pretty much knows what the majority of people are thinking. He knows how to manipulate people into thinking what he wants. And all that is because of us. Because we learned. Because we fell from grace. Because the master and the father of all lies convinced Adam and Eve that it was okay to eat of that tree. And from that point forward, he's been on a quest. Why do you think space exploration is so important? Or DNA is so important in science? Why do you think all these scientists are atheists? Well, it's because their master is not knowledge. Their master is not God. They don't do it because it's best for you, or because they're wanting to find other humans out in space, or the best way to treat your sickness. It's because Satan is their God, and their guide, and they're wanting to know where God is. Where's God? How do we defeat him? How do we create, this is them, not me. They say, how do we create our own people? That's Satan's goal. To crush you and create his own world because he thinks he's better than God. Now, when all this came to me, and I'm writing this Free Territory Alliance, I just realized that it's really we the people that do not realize that this has been going on since the beginning of time. And we think in communist countries, we think in socialist countries. If you would have asked anyone, Pastor, if I would have asked you when that was going on, if I would have talked to Drago, my buddy who was a SEAL, who fled communist Poland after spending 3 years in a gulag, coming to the United States, the day he became a citizen, he went and enlisted in the Navy, he was a SEAL for 20 years, was one of the most deadly guys there was in Iraq, just got fired from a job because he wouldn't take the shot. I'm sure if you would ask Drago in Poland, or the pastor where you were, or anybody else that's been in a communist country or socialist country, they would have told you that this is as bad as it can get. This is as bad as it can get. And what they've done is it happened so fast. Drago told me, he said, people in Poland were amazed when it happened. But it's not a quick occurrence. It happens over a period of time, just like it has here in the United States. The biggest difference between then and now is that they are not doing this with guns. They're not doing this with strength. The left is weak. Satan is weak. You realize God said that we would forever be stomping his head. But we stopped stomping his head. We stopped realizing how important our vote was. And what we did was give over our rights to protect ourselves, to stand against this God of all lies and his minions of useful idiots. We stopped standing against them. We gave over our votes. How many people here were in the streets when they started pushing the mail-in ballots? How many people went out and rallied and said, we're not leaving the street, this is not going to happen. Our vote, we have to drive, we have to go up there, walk, drive, however we get there, and give our vote in person? How many people? No one. How many people, when they went from a piece of paper where you in Arkansas, you would have a name, and then you would color in the arrow, right, with a pencil and a piece of paper. When they went to an electronic version, how many people sat back and said, this is not good? Right? How many people there? How many people went out and did anything about that? Nobody. In Virginia, a couple of years ago, They showed up 20,000 strong with all their gear and guns to protest the fact that their weirdo governor was trying to degrade their Second Amendment. They were peaceful. It was all over the news. They picked up their own trash. They did all this stuff. It was incredible. And it was actually effective. They surrounded their Capitol building. They didn't go in it. They didn't do Instagram like the guys on January 6th. They stood there, held their ground, and made a point. Where were all the people when that same governor at the same time said that it was okay to take a baby, it had just been born, set it to the side, and to decide whether or not you could kill it? Nobody showed up to that Capitol for that. Did anybody show up here? Nobody. This is the problem, right? This is a problem. The left is the enemy. How many people here do not realize the left is the enemy, right? Nobody. How many people here realize what the problem is, though? That is the issue, right? One person held their hand up back there, but I'll even challenge you this. We know what the problem is. The problem, well, maybe you don't know the problem. The left is the enemy. The problem is the fact that we rely on people that we elect that say they're conservatives. They're part of the GOP. This is the GOP ticket. Elect this person. And then what? They're not a part of a team. They're not a part of a fighting force. They're not a part of a war machine. They go to that office and they do that, whatever that job is. They go to Congress, they go to the Senate, and they just do that. There's no organized fight. You all think that you're sending somebody there to do your bidding, but they're not doing your bidding, because the bidding that needs to be done right now is war. I'm not talking about picking up a gun. I'm talking about picking up your shoes and going out into the street and not leaving until you get what you want. Now, there were original standards by the founding fathers of the way things were to be done. And that thing that when I went to that school and saw and had that lecture about the Constitution, I was shocked when the guy that was giving the lecture was talking about the reality of militias and how our military was supposed to be. It was a given that men between a certain age would serve. And if that was still the case, every state in the United States would potentially have a bigger fighting force than we have right now in all of the military. That should shock you, because if people were serving, that's the way it would be. Right? I talked to a historian years ago, female, and she said she was worried. This is in 2003. She was worried because the military no longer could sustain itself without the service of females. This is a female telling me, a female historian. She wasn't saying that because she doubted the ability of females to serve, but what it showed was, historically, any nation where their military starts to depend on females to sustain itself, the male population has stopped serving. And when the male population stops serving, it is a signal that the decline of the nation is inevitable. Yes, sir. So here we are, all right? Here we are now. This room should be overflowing with people. I'm not that big of a celebrity, right? I've hosted on radio and been on TV. I was on Newsmax right over there with Nick Figarella, by the way, earlier. We were in that other room. This is actually a funny story. On Greg Kelly's show just a minute ago, or before this started, talking about the reality of that there's really no white supremacy in this country. I basically said except for the left. But Nick and I both have shaved heads, so I know the liberals are going crazy about that. If you don't know Nick, 40 years in law enforcement, was a chief of police. Where were you chief at?
Brentwood.
Where?
Brentwood.
Brentwood?
Old County, first of Brentwood.
Okay. I can't hear anything there. So, anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that we know that the left is the enemy. We know that the GOP is broken. But what I can't understand is why the people continuously go to rallies. They go to see President Trump. I love the guy. But he's created a world of grifters. People will pay big money to go see these people. And then they leave and go home and they feel that 70,000 people go see Trump. He doesn't task them. He doesn't tell them, hey, we need to get on the street. He talks for 2 hours and then people go home. They do nothing. I'm tired of that. Action needs to happen, right? Action. How do we take action? How do we take action? Well, let me tell you how you take action. First of all, you have to realize what the problem is. I've told you tonight what the problem is. The left is the enemy, and the GOP is a non-functioning entity. And the people continuously put them in positions and think that they're going to fix things, and you're really just hiring people to go do a specific job. What is that system? The system is the people. The GOP is the only hope we have in politics, but not the GOP as it exists now. The GOP must become the people. The GOP must become subservient to the people. Now you all clap. You all clap. It's a great idea, right? But how do we do that? Well, I can guarantee you this. If you get this amount of people in this room right here to start writing letters to George, I love you, George, or any other chair, the state chair, and George is actually able to take those letters and say, we got an issue here. The people do not like what's happening. If you have any politician that says they're conservative, Kissinger, and how do you say his name? Idiot. Did anybody in here vote for that guy? Oh man, you're about to get kicked out if you did. He should be gone. He shouldn't have a voice. That guy should not appear anywhere without this many people showing up and blocking him from saying anything. His phones in his office should be so jammed that they're never able to take a call. His mailbox should be so full with letters saying you want him gone, and the GOP chair, if he's not gone, whoever the state chair is here, I don't know, and then you all should be surrounding his home until that guy is gone. No more money, no more support, no more line on the ticket. The GOP does not have to give that guy a line on the ticket, but they do. It is time for them to go. When's it going to happen? I don't live here. You all do. You could take each person here could take 5 people and go and stand around the GOP's chair's office, his home, do whatever it takes to finally he says, all right, I'm out, or I'm just not going to fund these people anymore. I'm not going to lie to you. You guys are way behind the curve. How many law enforcement here we have? Right? How many military? Right. By the way, he's the biggest guy in here. Action beats reaction. You guys heard that before, right? Right? What does that mean? It means if you're prepared, and the SEAL team had a thing called violence of action. Everything we did was with violence of action. Very focused action. Bless you. Action is something that you're prepared for. You make a plan for. You think tactically. Reaction means that you're winging it. Okay? Reaction is not a successful game to play. That's why most people, if you haven't got my book back there, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, you should get that on your way out. Because it'll show you how attackers think and how they plan attacks on you. Right? If you don't understand that, what's going to happen is you are in reaction mode. Every sector of your life to be looked at from the attacker's point of view. It's the same thing with politics. Stop reacting. Forward, think what these people do. They've been lying, they've been maneuvering, they've been gaining positions of authority and power over you, not just the past couple of years, not since Donald Trump was in office, for 80, 90, 100 years. The Department of War in the late 1940s went from the Department of War to the Department of Defense. That's a progressive move. The eagle used to look at the arrows, and now it looks at the olive branch, because it used to put force before diplomacy. Don't mess with us, because we're not about talking. We do hold that in reserve, though. Now, the eagle, if you look on your dollar bill, it's looking at the olive branches, and it's holding force in reserve. That's a progressive move. That weakened the nation. You all are the answer. So let me just say this one more time before we're going to do something here. First of all, we know how many law enforcement and police officers are in here. How many doctors do we have in here? You've taken a Hippocratic oath. Nurses? I love nurses. How many flight attendants do we have in here? Flight attendant? Okay. You never had to take an oath, but you do the same job as a cop every day in the air. Right? When I was an air marshal and I would brief the crew, I'd always tell the flight attendants, you're the unsung heroes of the skies. If it wasn't for flight attendants, there would probably be planes crashing on a weekly basis. How many people in here have taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution? All right. This whole room should be saying that. Right? What do you think? What do you think official service is? Official service is a civilian who raises their right hand and says, I will support and defend the Constitution in this area of operations, right? That's all it is. Thank you for your service. We say that a lot. I get that all the time. I'm just a civilian. I'm a civilian who took an oath and said, I'll stand for the Constitution. That's all. It doesn't say, I did some training, but I made a decision. I made a decision to step forward. So why don't we do that? Why don't we take an oath? Why don't we stand together? If you're going to stand together, if you're going to change the GOP, if you're going to stand against a leftist enemy that subverted the entire world, it's not just a nation, subverted the entire world, why aren't we taking an oath together? How can you stand together? How many people here ever played football? Right? Or basketball? Or baseball? Or hockey, I guess they play up here? How many of you ever did that without coming together as a team right before you go onto the court or the field? Right? The coach gives you a speech. You go over the basics of the things that you've learned, and then you step out together. How many of you have ever done that with 5 or 10 people and said, we're not going to take this anymore. We're going to go rally. Before we do, we're going to meet up. We're going to have certain people here that are on security, make sure we don't get hurt. We're going to have the loudest person screaming this. We're going to have somebody who knows how to make signs. And we're going to stay out there. And we're going to have somebody bring us food and water. How many people have ever done that? A few people. Right? It should be a whole room. Think tactically. Be aggressive. Use violence of action. And as they used to say in the teams and training, every evolution, it pays to be a winner. You show up every day. You all are going to go home tonight, and you're going to sleep in your bed. You're going to put your head on your pillow. But as the pastor will tell you, that may not last. It may not last. And when it occurs very quickly. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. Who do you think they're going to kill first? The ones who've been the loudest. You think that the activists on the left think that they got it good, right? I can guarantee you, if it ever got bad, the way communism is, their loud mouths are going to be the first ones that are taken out. You have to be a winner. You have to stand together before you can step out. So one last time. How many people in here, by a raise of hands, and let's say here. How many people here know that the left is the enemy? Yeah. How many people here know that the GOP is broken? Yeah. How many people here understand that the problem is that we don't stand together and sustain that fight. So here's what we're going to do. Now you know that, right? Now you know that. You've admitted to it. This is like AA. Now we can all stand up and say, I'm Jonathan. I have failed as a citizen to stand together, and I want to make it better. That's what we're going to do. So here's what I want to do. You don't have to do this. I want you to do it. You can stand with me. I want you to stand, and I want you to take an oath with me. This is on the Free Territory Alliance. You take this oath with me. You can go to the Free Territory Alliance. You can sign the document. 56 people signed the Declaration of Independence, right? We've had over 5,000 people sign the Free Territory Alliance. And when you put your not your address, but you put your zip code, it will come up on a map, and you'll see that there's over 5,000 dots on that map. And you can start to see, this is what's really interesting about this, you can start to see where the conservatives or the people who are concerned about this nation are at. And what's interesting is where conservative states are at, there's not a lot of people taking the oath. And that's a very dangerous thing, because you all realize what's occurring. And you're more likely to stand together, right? You just have to be organized. I know those of you that have gone to school board meetings and you've done these things and you've poured yourself out passionately, you've had rallies. I am not degrading that or doubting your heart at all. But the problem is that we are not organized in a way to fight against the left. We have to do what we have to do, and this many people in this room right now could change the entire world, not just this country. As this country falls, so does the world. But as this country stands, so will the world. And as this many people here stand, you can go out and influence. You don't need a radio show or a TV show. You don't need to, be on social media all over the place. Go get people that feel like you do. Inspire them to stand with you and help them understand that's the enemy. This is the problem. Right? So, raise your right hand, if you would. Let it be known. Okay, we'll start all over again. You're going to repeat after me. And we're going to say it loud, right? If you're going to say it loud. Let it be known, free of malice or pressure, I swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the freedoms listed therein against all enemies, be they foreign or domestic, that I pledge not to capitulate to any other form of government beyond that which is defined in our nation's founding documents. I swear this in front of all the citizenry and God Himself, that I shall be held to this oath by the same. And as such, if you want to sign your name, I shall sign my name on this alliance, that it may be known I made this pledge and commitment which I intend to uphold. So help me God. You all can give yourself a round of applause. You have now, whether you realize or not, you're in official service because you're on the front line. This isn't Iraq or Afghanistan, this is here. You have taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Do you realize that? I know the Marines realize that. I want to leave you with this. And I sincerely mean this. I love every single one of you. I've taken the oath officially 4 times in my life. I told some knucklehead on Twitter today who didn't like the fact that I was supporting Kyle Rittenhouse on Newsmax today. some guy with a blue check mark who's some kind of, I don't know, journalist, whatever that is. And he said that, Kyle Rittenhouse didn't have the training to be out there doing what he did. And my words to him was that I've bled more in training than most people will ever believe in their lives for their country. And I'm authority to judge somebody on weapons handling skills. That kid showed more prowess, more control with his weapon, and more understanding of what the threat was than any cop I've ever seen in a video before. I mean, he was accurate and did not pull the trigger against anyone that was not an imminent threat of loss of life or serious bodily injury to him. But it reminded me, when I was talking back and forth, or putting that guy in his place, whatever you want to call it on Twitter, Junior Johnson was a NASCAR legend. And this is before NASCAR went left. I mean, way left, right? They got woke. Junior Johnson used to say, next time you eat breakfast, I want you to look at that plate. And I want you to look at the bacon that's on that plate and think about the swine that bacon came from. And then when you look at the eggs and think about that chicken where those eggs came from. Well, that chicken was involved, but that swine was committed. Now, that's a southern saying. If you don't understand what it is, the chicken was involved, laid eggs, didn't give their life, but that swine gave their life. I have been with men when they died. They did not scream out for science. They screamed out for God. I have been tired. I've been hungry. And I've been underwater to the point where I was going to drown. When I was underwater, I longed for air. When I was hot and parched, I called out for water. The men that I saw that were dying, they called out for God. This is the point that we're at right now. Call out for God. Stand together. You have air right now. You have food right now. You have water. It needs to stay that way. Right now, it's your kids. You may not be like the fact that you have a mask or that people are being mandated to do this or that. But the reality is what's coming is not, there is no happy ending to this. We didn't get here quick. We got here because we're lazy. We got here because we're comfortable. I work for a living. That's how many times you heard that, right? I work for a living. In Texas, they always say, well, we got our guns. Well, guess what? Now they got every major city in Texas is owned by the left. And it's not long before they start changing the laws so that they don't have their guns, or it's too expensive to own one, or the laws are so strict that if they use it, they're going to be considered a felon. Right? Well, the same thing's happening here. So I'll leave you with this. Don't be the chicken. Be the swine. Be committed. Right? Be involved, but be committed to this fight. Because what's going to happen right now is you walk out that door right now. You may come back and see other speakers. You may go turn on your news and be angry, or get on social media and go to war on social media. Nothing is going to change unless you all who've taken this oath today stand together, walk out that door, and get to know each other and stand together. Do you understand that?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think you do understand. I didn't hear people say, do you understand that? See, I'm not just saying that because it's a pep rally. Before you walk out that door, you need to realize this may be the first time and maybe the last time somebody comes in front of you and tells you exactly what needs to happen. You need to stand together. You all took the oath with me today. From this point forward, before you walk out that door, you need to realize that you are the answer, that the GOP is broken, and that the left is your enemy. With those three things, you have everything that you need to know and what to do and how to do it. Well, we don't know what's the plan. How do we do this? Every situation is different. But if you don't have a team that stands together, you will be beaten. They will crush you. and everything that you are wearing, and everything that makes you smell good, and all the beef that you want to eat, the way you want to raise your children, it's all going to be changed. Do you realize that? Yes. Do you realize that? Yes. All right. Do I need to come up here and shake every single one of you? All right. I know you're tired. You've been here a long time. But quite frankly, I'm not saying I don't care. But I don't care. You all need to get fired up. You need to start doing more than just coming up to these meetings. You need to get fired up and start standing and stepping out. When people like Christina or Chrissy MC or whatever you call yourself today, whatever, you all need to step out and make a difference. One person can muster 20, 30 people. So imagine if 150 start mustering the people that they need, right? So one more time. Do you understand what's going on? Yeah. Are you tired? I don't know if you guys, I threw you for a loop on that one. There you go. All right. You all can have a seat. Any questions that you have for me before I leave? I'm going to hold you to that, right? I flew all the way here from sunny Arizona. It was raining yesterday when I got here. I had to sit in the middle seat to get here. So, and I'm, the dude who was sitting to the left and right of me, well, the guy on the right was kind of a soy boy, but the guy on the left did. Do you have any questions? I really do care about you leaving here knowing what you need to do. Do you realize that there's people here from the same towns that have never met? You need to find out where you live. You need to find out, and is George still here? Did he run? Say again? No, George isn't going to hide. George is a warrior. I love George. But get with George. Get with these people who are running for office. Sit with them. Get together and pray. Get together and come up with a plan. And if you don't have enough people to go to a rally, don't waste your time. But if you have enough people to go to, and don't think going to a rally is going to change anything. It's not. But if you don't have enough people to go to a school board meeting, start reaching out. Get 30, 40, 50, get 1,000 people to go to the school board meeting. You want to make a change. Get 1,000 people and say, we're not leaving. And neither are you. Right? Any other questions? I know you got it. What question you got?
Could you give like examples of what everybody can do?
Well, every situation is different, And it's not up to me to tell you exactly what to do. I gave you the tasking of that you need to step out and stand together. But each situation, it's a good question actually. Each situation is different and each location is different. If you say, well, we need to step out to a school board, but only 10 people will show up, then you start rethinking it. Each situation has a tactical solution. And don't think because there's so many of them that there's no way you can win. Look at the Spartans. Look at David. Look at Samson. Look at these warriors in the Bible. They did a lot with very little. Any other questions? Does that answer that question? Each situation is different. You have to think through them tactically. But you cannot think that rallying is going to save everything and fix every problem.
Why are we not telling people to become a precinct committeeman so that we can take over the GOP?
We should be.
Okay, so I feel like,
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
No. Precinct committeemen, any of these positions are very important, right? If you can get in there and do that. Any part you can play in the process that the GOP owns is important, right? Does that answer your question? I think it's very important. I'm not pushing you away from that at all. Is anybody else in here thinking I'm pushing them away from holding a political office or being a precinct committee? That's not what I'm doing. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. You should be involved. Who else had a question? Yes, sir.
America first. They're not putting American policies and American parents first. They need to go.
And listen, that's actually a good point because I could take you right now, I've never met you before, and I guarantee you we could sit down, and after I learn about these politicians and the way that they vote, their voting record is a big thing. They could be the most conservative person in the world, but if you look at their voting record, it doesn't matter what they believe, it's what their vote is. And that's really where the letter writing campaigns, look, if you have somebody that's in office, that's a good person to put pressure on, because then you can get them to do what you want. Some people like Richter, you're not going to change that here. Yeah, he's not going to change. But what you can do is all these other people is put the pressure on them, or put the pressure on the GOP to get them off the ticket. The GOP makes that decision to put them on the ticket. The GOP doesn't run any campaigns. They basically feed off of our conservatism. So it's time that we take the GOP back. Any other questions? Any other questions at all? All right, my book is on sale back here, $25. That's how I keep this Free Territory Alliance going. If you're leaving right now and you're not got a book, then you're dead. Anybody else? All right. I love every single one of you. Thank you. And remember, you took an oath today. That's not a joke. You took an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's what you got to start doing. Anybody else have anything to say? We love you too. You got it. Happy Veterans Day. Okay, that applause is not cutting it. Let me hear some applause.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thanks for your patience for staying up, sitting here, but I thought this was, it's energizing, and this is the second time, first time is when I joined the executive branch, so this will be my second oath. But as, I know you're getting ready, Nick, I just want you to just close this out. Nick Richmond, it's just for a minute or two, and then we're ready to go.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. Excuse me for 1 second, everyone, just for a second. Be quiet, thank you. Allie, Heinrich, put your hand up. Everybody look back at the back of the room. You see Allie back there? Thank you, Allie, for all of your hard work. Thank you, Freedom Initiative team, for all your hard work. Anyone who's interested in being an ambassador, okay, back to being tactical, back to taking action. You know, it takes an infrastructure. I was just at the Big Tent Coalition the other day. I was invited to that great event. Some of the same people who were being discussed today were there in the room. I'm a businessman, I'm a marketing professional. One of my mentors used to train me, he said, Nick, losers focus on threats, winners focus on targets. We need to focus on targets. The target is elections, finding the people that we want to put in these positions. It takes ambassadors, it takes a grassroots effort. What we've done here times like 1 million. So anyone in this room that's interested in stepping up, that wants to do more than just attend these events, but actually maybe run their own, build out their own network. See Allie, we have a scheduled meeting tomorrow to talk more about that. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Make it a great night.